All right, so this presentation is about the monitoring areas, showing you exactly where they are and going over some of the past data because these areas have been collected. Most of them have been collected in 2014 and in 2016. Okay, we have 6 wilderness areas that we are working in for this specific project, and they're on the Blue Ridge District and the Chattooga River District. This is the list of the monitoring areas, so they have been named, and these names will match what it says in the Survey 123, and will match the names on the extra documents if you want to go through the old reports. And right here, I have them in order of most visitors to the least amount of visitors. And the reason why I have this is that we might not be able to complete all of these, and I would like to focus on the ones on the top first, and then try to hit all of them if we can. And that is because the ones with high visitor use might need actions to protect the wilderness sooner than the ones with lower visitor use, although it's good to have data with all of them so that we can track what's going on in these wilderness areas over time and preserve the wilderness character with this information. Okay, this is a zoomed out picture of all the wilderness areas. We're going to zoom in to all these spots and go into the details of it. The monitoring areas are marked in different shades of purple. The wilderness areas are marked in brown, and the national forest is marked in green. The Appalachian Trail is coming through, and a decent chunk of these monitoring areas include different sections of the Appalachian Trail. Okay, so this is showing you what past data has told us about these areas. Some areas have a lot of extra use on the weekends. Some are 50-50 and some have more weekday use. And over time, we can find trends in how the area is being used. This is also from 2014, and with all the wilderness areas, we have like what is being visited the most. And so you can really see some of these standing out. And this is data from 2016, and there's a decent amount of similarity. We have the Big Peak with Ravencliffs Falls Trail, and some of the other popular AT sections. This also is a similar graph breaking up what wilderness monitoring areas are being visited. And we'll have this document in a shared folder, and you can go through some of the details of the data. This is just the overview. And the cool thing is we're going to be following the same protocols, the same format as when these 2 sections of data are being collected. So we're going to be able to find trends over time because we're following the same exact things and not reinventing it every time we go collect data. Okay, Ravencliffs. So I want to be clear that some of these places I've been to and some I have not, and so some people might even know more information about these than me talking about it. But I'm going to have these maps available to you, and you can open them in Avenza and track your little blue dot on your phone or tablet while you're doing the survey, and you can see when you hit the wilderness boundary, and you can be clear about when the monitoring area ends by following these maps. You don't need to do that, but this is going to be an available resource for you. Okay, Ravencliffs Falls. So this one's pretty simple. The wilderness border is close to the trailhead. It's like right off the road. So you can basically start that right when you hit the trail. It's 2.5 miles, and it probably still will take you the 4-hour chunk because you'll be stopping a lot to fill out the survey to record everyone. So 5 miles total for that one. Whiteley Gap Spur Trail. So there's the trailhead at Hog Pin Gap, and then you go uphill about a 1/4 mile, and there's a spur trail to a shelter off of the AT. And this is one of the smallest monitoring areas, but still, and we have an average of 7 encounters per period, so there are people going there, and that is pretty significant. If I were doing that, I might just hike it twice, like during that monitoring section, to hit the 4-hour mark. And so when you're logging in for that, it's going to be as soon as you turn into the spur off the AT rather than the wilderness boundary for that one. So it's going to start right there. Okay, so this is another section of AT. It's 6.5 mile section, and there's 2 different places that you can start. So Neal's Gap or Hog Pin Gap, or you could leave a car at one place and hike it all the way to your car on the other side, if you want to do that. But it's a 6.5 mile section. Most people hike around 2 miles an hour, so there's a chance you'll turn around before you get all the way to the end when you're doing this monitoring section. And there isn't a preference on which place you start at, just being within the monitoring zone. In both of these, the wilderness boundary is fairly close, within a 1/4 mile less of the trailheads. All right, Blood Mountain. So we have this monitoring, the Coosa Bear Hair Slaughter monitoring area has the most options as far as starting places. So there's different trailheads that you could start at to do it. You don't need to hit every section of this, like do the 4-hour chunk for this. Record the data at, but you can go multiple ways, or like hike down different sections and turn around, or different times you can start at different places. I like the starting at Lake Winfield Scott is kind of farther from the wilderness boundary than some of the other trailheads. So consider that, because that won't be in the 4-hour section, but you're welcome to go from that direction too. Then the other one is going to the Blood Mountain Shelter, but starting from the Byron Herbert Reese trailhead, which then meets up with the AT, and then turning on the AT and going to that peak into that shelter. All right, this one we have Woody Gap to Jared Gap, so that's a 7-mile section of AT. And the easiest place to start would be the Woody Gap trailhead. Although you could meet up, but you'd be farther away, so probably starting at Woody Gap for a day hike, and then turning around and going back. Dockery Lake, so that one, the wilderness boundary is 0.8 miles from the parking lot around, and then overall the trail hike is 3.7 miles. Mark Trail. All right, this section is 4.25 miles, and park at the Unicorn Gap area to do this section. And it ends around the intersection of the Jack Snob Trail that's on the AT. All right, Hog Pin Gap. So this one is the same starting place to go into Ravencliffs Wilderness, but it's going into Mark Trail on the AT. And actually, if you wanted to do a bigger group outing, you could have everyone meet here and do their 4-hour chunk. Some people could go on the AT Neal Gap to Hog Pin Gap, and some could go to the Whiteley Gap Spur and do the Hog Pin Gap to Chattahoochee Gap, and then meet back up. But yeah, so start Hog Pin, and again, this is an 8-mile section, so still do the 4-hour chunk unless you plan to do backcountry camping, and doing different chunks like that. Probably for day hike. Might not hit all of that before turning around. Brass Down. So we got 2 trails here, Wagon Train. So these have two different starting points to enter. So one is starting at Brass Down Bald in the parking lot there, starting at the peak and going into the wilderness from there. The Wagon Train also does have another trailhead closer to Young Harris too, which doesn't really show up on this map, but that's there. And then the Arqua Trail, you park at Track Rock, and then it's about 3/4 of a mile to the boundary from Track Rock, so then your morning will start there. It is pretty steep going up there, and for this trail in particular, I think most people either come down from Brasstown Bald and then turn around. I think that that's a more frequent use, but some people do come from Track Rock Gap, and I've heard that like the middle of the trail is a little bit more of a dead zone of a usage because people are just going in from both entry points and turning around. And this one also has a decent landslide on it, and I don't remember the exact location, but there's a place you'll have to scramble up some muddy places and grab on to roots and some user installed rope and stuff like that on this trail, probably near Low Gap or Locust Ridge. Could be as close as the Cove Gap, but it's somewhere around here on the trail. So that's to consider. Hopefully they'll get fixed soon. Train Mountain. So this one is an AT section. The easiest starting point is at Tray Gap. The most common starting point, and this road down here, like directly south of Trade Gap is closed, and the one that goes south west is a 4-wheel drive road. The one north is one that you can go with a 2-wheel drive car, but I would just like to say it's going to be an hour or 45 minutes from pavement on that road to get there. It's going to be slow going. There is an access point at Addis Gap. The Wildcat, the road to the Wildcat campground has been closed due to, I think, a landslide or something like that. I don't remember, but that has been closed and I haven't checked that out. But there is a trail. I don't know how big the parking area is, but there's a trail to go up, and I know the GATC uses that for access as an access point, but I don't have an update on the condition of that. But I do know Trade Gap has a decent parking area and is where the public is going to mostly access that, although there are through hikers on the AT that will be on the trail. All right, Rich Mountain, I'm going to have you read the description for that because it's a little bit more vague, and there isn't as much of a defined monitoring area, so I'm going to have you just address the description there, and it's also the lowest on our priority list. You might see 0 to 1 people, and I've been there a few times. I've seen people edge of the wilderness on the north road, but I have yet to see anyone in there. There are no trails or anything like that, so I'm not going to spend too much time going into detail on that. So those are all the monitoring areas.